This is the very first chapter in the textbook. As you can see, the contents of this chapter is first we are giving brief introduction about algorithms and flowcharts and pseudocode. Then we will study basics of this problem solving. Different examples will be studied. Then we look into the overview of C. So your actual content starts from overview of C. And then we'll be studying about some programs for explaining about constants, variables, data types, and how can we interact with the program, that is by using input-output operations like printf and scanf. Then we'll study about different operators and expressions. Right? So, as I told earlier, before you start with the data structure, let us see the definition of data structure. What is a data structure? So when we have huge amount of data in our day-to-day life, it will be difficult for us to manage the data and access the data. So if you have physical files, it will be difficult for us to manage the physical files. It will be difficult for us to manage the physical files. Say file number 1, file number 1, file 2, so on up to in a office. If you assume that there are 100 files, physical files I am telling, physical files. These many files are present in the office, and every file is having some record, and every record is having some data fields. That means files will contain records, records will contain fields, and individual fields will contain some information. Right? So assume when you have 100 files, and I will ask you to search for some key element, that means some details of one student. That is by specifying the university seat number. Say some number I will write. So what I want is, these many files are available, and if these files are not arranged in a proper way, say assume every file is having 100 pages, and you want to search the details of this student, So what is possibility? Possibility is that you will start searching from one file and go up to the last file. The worst possibility is this information is present in the last line of the last file. The worst possibility here is this information is present in the last line of the last file. Then you will be unnecessarily wasting your time in searching all this data. You will be unnecessarily wasting your time in searching all these files, physical files. If these physical files are organized by using data structures, that is organized by using data structures. If you organize them by using data structures, then managing the data is very easy. That means if you want to know the detail of this particular student, in physical files we go on searching manually. But if it is a logical organization by using file system or data structures, you can give the USN of this particular student and fetch the data immediately. That means accessing data is very easier. You have stored here, and here also there will be 100 files. You can just use the USN and access the data. That is, accessing the data is easy. When you are going to organize the data by using data structures. So with this information, how we can define the data structure here is efficient storage and organization of the data so that it can access it properly. Efficient storage and organization of the data so that it can be accessed efficiently and at a faster rate. That is what is called as a data structure. Here, some random physical locations will be there, but if you organize them properly by using data structure, then access will be easy and the time will be less for accessing the data. The time will be less for accessing the data. So that is what is the definition of the data structure. It is efficient organization of the data so that it can be accessed properly. That is what is data structure. And why do we need the data structure? We need the data structure for efficient organization of the data. Because after this, if this is information for 1 year, and similarly our college started in 1997. So these many years, nearly 25 years, 25th year is 24th or 25th year is running now. So every year assume there are 100 files, and if you want to manage the details of all the students from all the departments, so how much is required? 25 into 100. These many files you have to process. And if you want to search the details of any student from any of the batches, then you have to waste most of your time in searching these physical files. If this all the data is stored by using data structures, or more specifically, we store the data in databases. That means database will contain the details of all these files. And in turn, this database will make use of these data structures for storing the data. So ultimately, what is the data structure? The efficient organization of the data so that it can be accessed properly. That is what is data structure. And why do we need the data structure? For efficient access of the data within less time, and whenever we want, we can immediately access the data. That was the essential need for the data structures. See here the very note in the first page of the textbook. I would like to highlight this and tell it to you. So what this note says, if you are already familiar with problem solving technique, that means you once again it's a concept like which is giving confidence to you about the subject. If you are already familiar with problem solving technique and C language, then you may choose to skip this chapter. So this chapter you need not study if you are already familiar. So, but I am assuming that you are not familiar. I am assuming the fact that you are not familiar, even though you have studied, the whole concepts will be explained in detail. Right? So how do we, let us see the introduction to the problem solving. So what actually is a problem? It is a situation which we are giving it to a computer so that it can provide us a solution. There is a problem in terms of programming. Problem is something which has to be solved by the computer so that it can provide us a solution to that particular problem. But whenever some problem is given to us, there are three different approaches for solving a problem. There are three different approaches for solving any given problem. The first approach is write algorithm for that particular problem. That is writing algorithm for the given problem. That is the very first technique. So what is algorithm and all we will study right now immediately. Then the second approach is write a flowchart for that. That is diagrammatic representation of the given algorithm is called as a flowchart. The third approach is we can write the pseudocode. We can write the pseudocode for the problem. So these are the three approaches for solving the problem. So the very first thing is algorithm. So what basically is an algorithm? An algorithm is a step-by-step procedure for solving some problem. It is just a procedure to be followed for solving a problem. And for a single problem, there can be more than one procedure for solving the problem. There can be more than one procedure for solving the problem. That is what is step-by-step procedure. So specifically as for this, an algorithm is a sequence of steps written in simple English phrases to describe the solution to a given problem. Some problem is given to you and you should write or describe the solution for that particular problem. So that is what is algorithm. That is sequence of steps to be followed. Some steps will be given to you and you have to follow those steps. And it basically is going to break the solution of a problem into series of simple steps. That is, whatever problem is given to you, you can describe that problem by using smaller pieces, and finally you can combine all those pieces into a single entity. Right? So I'll take one simple example. Some algorithm to understand what basically is an algorithm, some problem. What is the problem here is some number is given to us and we should write the algorithm to find whether the number is even or odd. Some number is given to us, you should find whether the given number is even or odd. So what is the algorithm for that? We have to design the algorithm. But before you write the algorithm, you should know what is an even number and what is an odd number. So we know that a number is even number if it is modulo 2 is equal to 0. This is what is the condition for the even number. So what the even procedure to find the even number is even or odd. If the number is divided by 2 and if we are getting a remainder as 0, then it is called as a even number. If it is not equal to 0, then it is odd number. So with this simple knowledge, with this simple mathematical knowledge, now we'll be writing what? We'll be trying to write the procedure, that is step-by-step procedure to solve this particular problem. So what is the problem given to us? A number is given to us. So we have to find whether it is odd or even. And we know the logic. It should be divided by 2 and we have to check whether we are getting the remainder as 0 or not. So first remember, an algorithm will always start by start step and it will end at the stop step. That is fixed for each and every algorithm. And what is the first step? If you want to find whether the number is odd or even, you should have that number. So what is the step 2? Accept the number as an input. Ask the user to provide the number. What is that number? So that he can take that number and calculate, do the operations to find whether it is even or odd. What is the next step? Divide the number by 2. As I said, divide the number by 2. If the remainder is 0, then go to step 4. Else go to step 5. Only two possibilities whenever you divide a number by 2. The remainder either you may get 0 or you may not get the 0. If you get 0, then go to step 4. That is immediately from here you will be going to step 4. What step 4 says, the number is, if you are skipping to step 4, it is understood that the given number is even number and we will go to step 6, and that means we will stop the execution. That is what is step 6. Else part what it says, go to step 5. What step 5 says, the given number is the odd number. This is the simple procedure which we have followed to find whether the given number is odd or not. Given number is even or not. So this is what is an algorithm. And you may not follow the same words. You can write this algorithm in your own words also. Basically, you should follow some sequence of steps to find the solution for the given problem. That is what is the algorithm. Now, as we can see, use this algorithm to find the solution for the given problem, and we have to follow the series of steps. So as I said, Every algorithm will start and end with start and stop statement respectively. Now let us see some of the characteristics, advantages and disadvantages of algorithm. That is, whenever you are using algorithm, these points you should know. What are the characteristics of an algorithm? It is going to solve the problem. That means we are going to provide solution for the problem by using algorithm. It is just a set of instructions, and the instructions are very concise in nature for giving solution to the problem. And those instructions must be ordered. That means you should follow some predefined sequence. Then only you can get across the solution. And as I said, it begins always with the start and ends always with the stop instruction. This is what is the predefined character, some of the characteristics of the algorithm. And what are the advantages of going for algorithm? So before you go for writing the program itself, it is better to write the algorithm. Why? It's going to make it easy to develop the program code at the end. We can first get the rough idea by writing the algorithm before we can develop the program. So it allows the programmer to use the efficient solution by selecting the time complexity and the space complexity. Whenever you develop the algorithm, it will tell us how much time this algorithm is going to take. Say, for example, some problem is given to you and you can develop different algorithms for that. This is algorithm 1 and this is algorithm 2. So say for the given problem, you have written 2 algorithms. Then among these 2, which one to be selected? So that you decide based on the time and space. Based on the time and space being consumed by the algorithm. So obviously what we want time to be less and space to be less. That means if algorithm 1 is taking 5 seconds to solve a problem and it is consuming 10 MB of space, and algorithm 2 is consuming 10 seconds of time and it is taking a space of 20 MB. Then how do you select the algorithm? Obviously, we are going to select this particular algorithm which is going to consume less time and which is going to consume less space. So that is how we will select the solution to a given problem, and that is provided by the algorithm. So before you write the program, because once you write this program, that is code 1 for this algorithm 1, code 2 for this algorithm 2. So designing code is very hectic and time consuming, writing program. Because after writing program, if you find the time and space, then again you have to rewrite the code. So before writing code, first write the rough algorithms and estimate their time complexity. Then you go select the better algorithm, then write the corresponding program for that. Right? Now it breaks the solution into a simplified sequential steps. As we have said one example, to find whether the number is odd or even. It's going to break the solution into smaller parts. It is just a simplified way to represent the program instructions so that the new user can identify what procedure has to be followed. So very simple thing, how to prepare a tea. Preparing a tea is a problem given to you, and the solution for that, you will follow a step-by-step procedure. That is, first you pour water into a bowl, then sugar, then tea powder, and finally milk at the end. So that is one predefined procedure what you follow to find solution for the given problem. These were the different advantages, and when an entity has an advantage, it will be also having some disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages of different algorithms? So algorithms are basically, it will be difficult for us to understand if the algorithm is very large. That means if the procedure is very lengthy, it will be difficult for us to understand. I will go back to this previous algorithm. As you can see, this is a very simple algorithm to find whether number is odd or even. So it is basically consuming 4 fundamental key steps. And if you consider some big real world problem, like which process has to be given priority for execution, then that algorithm will be having hundreds together steps. In such cases, the larger steps will cause difficult for normal user to understand the flow of program, and understand the flow of control. And as we don't have visual representation, it is difficult for us to understand. Like visual representation will be provided in the flowcharts, but it is not in the algorithms. And there are no standard conventions to be followed while developing algorithms. That means there is no standard way for writing the algorithms. Users can write in whatever way they want. So for example, just now I gave an example of preparing a tea. So what was the procedure that I told? We'll put water into the bowl, then probably if you put sugar first, then tea powder, milk at the end. Then other algorithm can be water first, tea powder next, sugar and then milk. Then another procedure could be you may skip the water, use milk, then tea powder and then sugar. Ultimately what we want tea. But there are 3 procedures what I told just now. So there is no standard convention. Users can write the algorithms in the way they want. And another disadvantage is it may take a huge amount of time to write the algorithm for the given problem. So when some problem is given to you, it may consume more time to write the algorithm. So as you study the course, you will find it easy to write the program directly before you write the algorithm. Now let us see the next aspect, what is a flowchart. So it is just a pictorial representation of the given algorithm is called as an flowchart. The flowchart will help us to understand how actually the procedure has to be followed for getting a solution to the given problem. That is what is flowchart. Flowchart is usually represented by using some symbols, or they are called as shapes also. You can call them as shapes. Just reduce this so that the whole thing fits in the same window. Right? So let us take the flowchart. Let us draw the flowchart for the same problem. What is the problem? To find whether the number is even or odd. So for the same problem, let us write the flowchart now. Let us write the flowchart. So the flowchart will also start with start and stop. And this is what is oval. So ovals are always used to indicate beginning and end of the flowchart. And this is what is parallelogram. So always parallelogram indicates that something is being taken either as input or something is being given as output. That is what is parallelogram. What parallelogram? It is usually used for showing input or output. Parallelogram is usually used for showing input or output. Next, this is rectangle. This is rectangle. So why rectangle is used? Rectangle is used for performing calculation part. The computation part or calculation part will be always shown by using the rectangle. By using the rectangle. So what is the calculation part? We know that to find whether the number is odd or even, we first divide that number by 2. So that is what is happening here. The given number is being divided by 2 and we will get the remainder part. That is RHS will be evaluated and that will be stored in the LHS part. So once you get the remainder part, now we have to check whether the remainder is 0 or not. That means if the remainder is greater than 0, then what we'll say it is an odd number. Else what we do, what we conclude that the number is even. In this case, only two possibilities, either it is yes or no. If it is greater than 0, here it is, they have not compared exactly with the 0. 0, if it is not equal to 0 means it is greater than 0, it is understood. If it is greater than 0, then the number is, if it is greater than 0, then the number is odd. If it is not greater than 0, then the number is even. That means this is rhombus in mathematical terms. What this rhombus indicates, it is used for decision making. Rhombus is used for decision making. That means when writing solution to the given problem, if you have two situations, for a single expression, if there are possibilities of having two results, then which result you have to follow? That is identified by using the condition checking. That is in the rhombus. We are checking this condition. Is the remainder is greater than 0? True or false? If it is true, we will follow this path. If it is false, we will follow this path. So in this case, if it is false, what we do? Display the number as even and stop ultimately. If it is true, we will take this approach. Then see, again here it is a parallelogram, it is not a rectangle. What parallelogram says? Parallelogram is used for either taking the input or giving the output. So here we will just display it as display the number as odd, and here we display the number as even. In either cases, only one condition will be true. You are not supposed to follow both the paths, because for the given number, only two possibilities, either the number is even or the number is odd. That means you are supposed to follow either this path or this path. Any one, you are not supposed to follow both the paths. So that is how the flowchart is used. So these are the different symbols. As I said, the flowchart will always begin with the oval and end with the oval. It's going to represent start and end of the process. So representation of input and output is possible by using the parallelogram, and some computation is shown by using the rectangle. Decision making is shown by using the rhombus. That means you want to decide among the given code part which is true. That means which execution path you have to take. Either you have to take true path or false path. So that is identified by using the rhombus. And these are the arrow marks what we usually use in flowcharts. They are going to represent the flow of control and the information. They are going to represent the flow of control and the information, and this circle is identified as a connector. So it just represents the continuation of the existing flowchart. If the flowchart is going to span across multiple pages, then you use it as a connector. And these are additional things. This is going to represent the database. This is also going to represent the multiple files, database, and some logical linking with the database and all. So these are the different symbols what we use in flowchart. I'll just increase the font size. And different characteristics of the flowcharts. What are the characteristics? First thing is standard flow of control in a flowchart is either from top to bottom or from the left to right. You are supposed to draw the flowchart only in this direction. That means when you consider this flowchart, so how we have considered it here, we are showing the flow from left to top to bottom and from the left to right. Usually this will be, the flow will be from top to bottom. That means top will be usually beginning and bottom will be usually end of the flowchart. Usually end of the flowchart. Now the flowchart instructions are simple and concise, very similar to algorithm, and none of the arrows in the flowchart should intersect with. The meaning of this scenario is we are not supposed to make intersection with the arrows. Intersection with the arrows. That means at any given point of time, right? At any given point of time, there should be no situation in the flowchart. This is not having, but I am drawing it for the explanation purpose. If there is something, some other code is here, and you should not write like this. There should not be intersection. Should not be intersection among the arrows. That means the flow, outgoing flow from one condition should not intersect with other condition. So that is what is expected from the flow charts, whatever you design. So as I said, it will also begin with start and stop. So all the flow charts will begin with start and they will end with stop. So what are the advantages? The visual representation of flow of program is easier to understand. Like compared to the algorithm, it will be easy for us to understand and remember the flow chart. See, this was the algorithm what we have studied for finding whether the number is even or odd. This was the algorithm what we have studied. So for understanding this algorithm, you may have to read it and it may be time consuming and you may not feel so comfortable for understanding this procedure, step by step procedure. But if it is given in terms of diagram, if it is given in terms of diagram, because it is said that an image can say 1,000 words. An image can represent or convey more information compared to words or sentences. So the flowchart is being drawn and it is easy for us to remember the flow by using flowchart compared to algorithms, because it is just having some symbols and arrow marks show the flow, how the process is going to work. So it is the process of development of the program. That is, it is going to add advantage for developing the program. So debugging is also very easier whenever you develop the flowchart, and we can also perform efficient documentation by using the flowcharts. The disadvantages could be for the large programs, it is very difficult to draw the flowchart because the flowchart will become very complex and confusing for simple user to understand. For large user, for large set of problems. See, for these only 5 statements, for this algorithm, for these, for the simple procedure of finding whether the given number is odd or even. This is what is the flowchart. So assume if the problem is very big, then the flowchart will become clumsy. So again, it is going to add the complexity as the problem length increases. And if you make little modifications, then we may have to perform more amount of rework in case of flowcharts. It can, and we may use connectors, and the usage of those connectors may become more confusing as the complexity will increase. Because what are the connectors that we use? We use these, all these are going to act as connectors. That is, this one flow along with the connector, because if the flowchart size is increasing across pages, then you have to use multiple connectors. Then it may be confusing for the simple user to understand the flow. Pseudocode, coming to the pseudocode, it takes the algorithm one step further. That is, it is better to understand the pseudocode compared to algorithms. That means nearly we are writing partial programming code in this pseudocode. It represents the problem solution with the help of generic syntax and normal English phrases. That is, the solution is nearly equal to the program. Like you must have studied assembly level programming in your microprocessor and all. So assembly level program is, we're going to study it before we write the program. So assembly level program will contain little English as well as little programming constructs. So that is what is pseudocode. It is the combination of generic syntax as well as the normal English which we can understand. So it is also going to make use of high level programming constructs for writing solution. That means which we can understand, which user can understand. Right? The same pseudocode for the same given problem. What is that problem in our hand? The problem in our hand is to find whether the number is odd or even. So that is what is the problem in our hand. What is the pseudocode? Pseudocode will always start with the keyword called begin and it will end with the end. So as you can see here, this is nearly equal to a simple C program. So first we will define what? A variable called number. That means declare a variable called number. Display means give this message to the user. What? You ask user to enter a number. This will be displayed as it is. User has to enter the number. Then that number has to be read. Because whatever input the programmer is giving, that number has to be read and perform this operation. What is that operation? Perform the corresponding operation. Perform number modulo 2. That means whatever number is given as an input, divide that number by 2 and compare with the 0. In this case, two possibilities. Either the remainder is 0 or the remainder is not 0. If else statement, what it says, if this condition is true, then we will execute this part, immediate next statement if this is true. And if this is false, we will go for the next part. Possibilities are there, either it is true or false. In case of true, we will execute this statement. In case of false, we will execute this statement. So true what it indicates, if the number after dividing it by 0, if we are getting if the number after dividing by 2 we are getting 0, then the number is even number. Else, if this is false, as per the programming construct, we will go for the else part. What else part says? The number is obviously an odd number, and end the if statement, then end the procedure, end the pseudocode. This is a simple pseudocode. It is nearly equal to programming construct. That is, there are combination of programming constructs along with the simple English phrases. That means defining a number, that is integer number. This is simple English phrase, and this is again a programming construct. So combination of both, which will be easy for us to understand. Before you develop the program, if you write the pseudocode, it will be simple for us to write the program, exact program. So very similar to the algorithm and flowchart, we have different characteristics, advantages and disadvantages for this also. That is, it is concise action. It's simple. It is also going to represent the solution by using simple steps. And it is going to use the labels which are easy for us to remember. It is going to use the labels which are easy for us to remember. One second. I think someone else expecting to add again. I don't know why many students are messaging me to add their numbers, because now this is the 7th number what I am getting to add to the data structure. Okay, I'll check it after this class. Let us complete the class. So it's also solving the problem. It begins with begin and end. Next, it is very simple and easy to understand, because our approach is our intention is to write the program. Before program, if you write the pseudocode, it will be simple to develop the program. See here, as you can see, as I said, converting a pseudocode into actual program is easier. If the pseudocode is known to you, converting it to the actual program is very easy. Very easy. Easy to modify and update the pseudocodes as compared to algorithm and flowchart. That is, alteration in the pseudocode is very easy compared to algorithm and flowchart. It is flexible to develop, and it will be easy for us to remember also. The pseudocode is also very easy to remember. And the disadvantage is there is no visual representation like flowchart, because by looking at the flowchart you can understand easily. Again, there are no standard specifications for writing the pseudocode, because the procedure can be followed in a different way. A pseudocode can be developed in different ways by different programmers. So it may become difficult to understand the flow of program in a pseudocode as the complexity of the program increases. And as the complexity of the problem increases, the length of the pseudocode may also increase. It is what is the disadvantage. Now, different examples of the problem solving. What I can do here is find whether the given number is prime or not. So I'll take one more sample example. That is the problem. What is the problem here? The problem is to find whether the number is prime or not. So this you can easily. It is a complex one. I'll take simple to that. Roots of a quadratic equation which is known to you. I think mathematical part is known to you. Again, it is having complexity. So leap year or not is very simple procedure, right? So some problem is being taken. What is the problem? The problem given to us is some year is given to us and we want to find whether that year is leap year or not. So we know the procedure for finding leap year. You should divide the number by 4 and you should expect 0. Then if the number after dividing by 4 is 0, then we call it as a leap year number. So what is the simple procedure for that? First, let us write the algorithm. So algorithm will always start and stop at the end. So what is step 2? Just take the year from the user. That means you have to provide input to find whether the year is leap year or not. Then step 3 is what? The remainder of the year value after division by 4 is 0. That means take the number and divide it by 4. Perform modulo operation, not the division operation. So this is different and this is different. This will always give the quotient and this will always give the remainder. Then go to step 4. So what step 4 says? Go to, if it is 0, then go to step 4, else go to step 5. What step 4 says? The given year is a leap year and then stop. What step 5 says? The given year is not a leap year and then stop. So that is the simple procedure for finding, simple algorithm for finding whether the year is leap year or not. Just perform modulo by 4, check it is 0. If it is 0, it's a leap year, else it is not a leap year. How we can write that in the form of flowchart? So this is how we can represent that by using the flowchart. Start, read the year. So it is either input or output. Why it is present in the parallelogram. And after reading the number, you have to perform condition checking. We will always check the condition. Our decision making is performed in rhombus. Whether the year after dividing by 4 is it equal to 0. Two possibilities are there. Either it is true or it is false. If it is true, what we do? We will display it as a leap year. We will display it as a leap year. Else we will display it as not a leap year. Else will display it as not a leap year. In either of the cases, either you display it as a leap year, then you have to stop. If it is not a leap year, then also you have to come and stop. That means at any given point of time, if the algorithm, if the flowchart is starting, it should terminate at the stop. It should terminate at the stop. That is what is expected. Right? Now after algorithm and flowchart, let us write the pseudocode for that. This is in terms of assembly level language, nearly equivalent to assembly level language. Define a variable called year to store the year whatever user is entering. Ask the user to enter the year. That is, just display this message to the user saying that please provide the number for the year which you want to find whether it is a leap year or not. That is, read that year in a variable called year. And that year must be divided by 4 to compare with the 0. If the number after dividing by 4 is equal to 0, then it is a leap year. Else, it is not a leap year. End of if statement, and then that is end of the pseudocode. So different such examples are there which you can read on your own. For examples, some 6 algorithms are there. As you can see, the flowchart complexity is increasing for roots of a quadratic equation. Right? This was actually the fundamental for the subject. This is what I wanted to cover in today's class.